Satyapriya and I plodded on across the sun-baked earth, grimly covering 12 to 15 miles a day. A scorching, dust-laden wind was blowing off the desert, and the sun was so intense we had to walk along with a wet towel wrapped around the head for protection. After 2 or 3 hours of walking, we generally halted beside a river for our breakfast and a bath. At night, we took refuge in a temple or an ashram. The only vestige of spiritual activity we saw was the smoking of ganja. Often a sympathetic villager would bring us something to eat, and Satyapriya would become involved in discussion. Towards the 8th day, our stops became more and more frequent. Before long, we were heartened by the sight of the majestic dome of the Mahaparinirvana Stupa rising in the distance. We were there. The resident monastic community of Kusinara was smaller than that of Sarnath. In fact, it consisted of only Chandramani himself and an Indian disciple. There were, however, a number of shaven-headed, yellow-robed anagarikas, not nuns but devoted observers of the 10 precepts. Chandramani had come to Kusinara in 1901 to help build the first Buddhist temple to be constructed in India in modern times. He had not only resided there without interruption ever since, but continued his predecessor's work of restoring the ruins and making the place once more a living centre of Buddhism. We could hardly have found a more suitable person to ask for ordination. When the moon that rose every night above the shadowy dome of the Mahaparinirvana Stupa was almost full, Chandramani called us to his room and told us that he would not be accepting any responsibility for our future training, nor would it be possible for us to stay with him at Kusinara. But if it was ordination we wanted, then he would ordain us with the greatest pleasure, and we could have his blessing into the bargain. At 9 o'clock on the morning of Vaishakha Purnima, we received the long-expected summons to the chapter house. Here, Chandramani handed us our robes and told us to go and take a bath and put them on.
The public then gathered in the shrine room was not being photographed. 7 years later in Thailand, and under the watchful eye of English bhikkhu Kapilavastu, who narrates the film, 3 of his protégés are coached in the precise recitation.
At the back you see the title fans, those decorated fans. They are for bhikkhus. Every bhikkhu in Thailand has one as his authority. As the scene moves, you see the group there sitting quite happily, smoking cigarettes, everybody around quite happy, everybody very friendly.
The 3 refuges had not only to be repeated 3 times each, but repeated in both Pali and Sanskrit.
They commence by the words Sanghang Bhante Upasampadang Yachama Olong Patuno Bhante Sangho Anukampang Upadaya. Please, Venerable Sirs, may we enter.
The more formal part of the proceedings ended with the Mahatera solemnly adjuring us in the last words which the Buddha had addressed to his disciples, as he lay on his deathbed only a couple of 100 yards away. With mindfulness, strive on. Having been spiritually reborn, we had to be given new names. Satyapriya would be known as Buddharakshita. Dharmapriya would be known as Dharmarakshita. When it was pointed out that Chandramani already had a disciple called Dharmarakshita, our preceptor said, with a gesture of good-humoured impatience, "Let him be Sangharakshita."